Welcome to the Python lecture, everyone. In this lecture, I'm going to start ahead with the function. So we all are using a different kind of a function since a very first day. For example, obviously we all have used a print function, which is an inbuilt function. Apart from this, we have seen a length function. We have seen a lot of different kind of function with respect to a string, with respect to a list, with respect to set, tuples, and a dictionary. Now, all of these functions are inbuilt function. Someone has already created these functions for us, and we are just trying to call it. We are trying to pass a data, and we are able to get a desired outcome. Now, if I have to create such kind of a functions by ourselves, how I will be able to create it, we'll try to understand in this particular lecture. So let's get started, guys, without any delays, and let's try to understand function. This is going to be very important topic, because going forward in every example, or maybe in everything, whatever I'm going to teach, everywhere I'm going to create a functions, and then I'm going to explain something out of it. So that's the reason. So this is very important. Plus, whenever you will try to build something by yourself, again, without creating a function, you will not be able to build it. So here, in case of Python, we have a length function. So we can try to pass maybe a string. It is going to tell me what is the length of the particular string. Similarly, with respect to a list, let's suppose if I'm going to create a list. So here is a list. I have a couple of data, and here if you're going to do list dot, you will be able to see so many different kind of function I have already discussed. Similarly, if I'm going to create a string, again with respect to a string, you will be able to see a lot of different kind of functions I have already discussed. Most of the function belongs to the string. Now, if I have to create such kind of a functions by myself, how I will be able to create it, that we'll try to discuss. But before that, let's try to understand why do we even need our own custom function. The reason is to remove the repetitions. We try to write a same logic again and again and again. Instead of writing a same logic again and again, what we can do is we can try to wrap up those logic inside one single function, and we can try to use it wherever it is required. Simple. So it will try to increase a reusability of a code. Plus, you will be able to maintain your code in a easiest way. And that is a reason behind creating a function. And almost every programmer, every developer writes a lots of function on a daily basis when they are the part of any project. So here, I'll try to start a function with a very basic one, but again, I'll end up creating a lot of complex functions as well in our upcoming lecture. So here, if I have to create a function, there is a keyword called as def keyword. Def is nothing but definition. There is a keyword called as def keyword with which you have to start all the time. So whenever and wherever you are going to create a function without def keyword, you will not be able to start it. So def keyword, and then what you have to write, you have to write a name of the function. So maybe I can write name as a test as of now. Going forward, I'll be talking about even a naming convention of variable, of function, of classes, many more things, right? But as of now, as we are the beginner, we all are beginner. So let's try to create a functions with the name called as test. And then we try to give open and close bracket. Okay. And then we try to give a colon. Fine. Now this is going to be a definition of a function. Okay, fine. So this is how you will be able to create a function. Now let's suppose this function is supposed to do some sort of a task, but as of now, I'm trying to create this function which should not do anything. So in that case, what I can do is I can write a keyword called as pass and execute. Now, this is one of the function which is been created, and wherever I have to use this function, so I can just try to call its name and I will be able to use it. As of now, I have not written anything inside this function in terms of a logic, so it is not going to do anything for me. But going forward, right after some time, so I'll try to show you those examples as well. So here, how we can create a function, again, let's repeat one more time. So def function name bracket colon done. This is how you will be able to create a function. Now let's suppose I'm going to create a function called as test1 this time, bracket, and here I'm trying to print that this is my first function. Okay, this is my first function, execute. Now this is a function which we have already created. Now how to use this function? So simple, call this function. This is called as call of the function. So function name bracket bracket and then execute. Now if I'm going to execute it 10 times, it will keep on executing the same thing again and again and again. So wherever I have to print this one, wherever I have to do this particular task, what I can do is, instead of writing this task again and again, I can just call this function and my work will be done. I don't have to write this line of a code again and again. Simple, call a name and my work will be done. That is the beauty of creating functions. Now here, so I'm trying to create a function and I'm trying to take a outcome in terms of print. Okay, that's completely fine. It is going to give me a data. It is going to give me something. Now here, let's suppose if I'm going to write test1 and it is going to print something, and I'm assuming, as of now, I'm assuming that this is going to be a string. This is just my assumption. It may be incorrect assumption, but as of now, this is my assumption. So this is the string. What I will do is I'll try to perform a concatenation operation. String to string, I'll try to perform a concatenation operation. And now let's try to see the outcome. So here, when I have executed the outcome of this function, so whatever outcome this function is trying to give it to me, I'm just trying to do what? I'm trying to concatenate a particular string with it. Now, here it is telling me that unsupported operand type, none type and string. None type and string. So you are able to get a print. When I'm trying to do a concatenation operation with that particular outcome, it is not going to perform. What is a reason behind this one? And many of us, many beginner, try to make this kind of a mistake. What is the reason behind this one? The reason is very simple. Whenever you will try to see a print always returns what? None. Yes, print is returning what? Print is giving you outcome as a none. Now, if print is giving you outcome as a none, in that case, obviously you will not be able to perform any kind of a primitive operations, because with none, you can't do anything, right? You can't do a concatenation operation, you can't do a addition, multiplication, or any such kind of operations. So it's basically a none type. So whenever you're trying to create a function, you are not supposed to give outcome as a print. Then what you are supposed to do? What kind of outcome you are supposed to write? So here, let's suppose I'm going to create a function test2. Okay. So whenever you are creating a function, you have to make sure that you are always writing a return keyword. RETUR return means what is the outcome? Return means very simple. What is the outcome system is going to give me? What is the outcome this function is going to give it to me? Now, if I'm going to write, this is a return of my function. This is the return of my function. Now, if I'm going to call test2, it is going to give me this outcome. Okay, it is going to give me this outcome. Now, if I'll try to do a concatenation operations with this one, SUDH, you will be able to find out that yes, I'm able to perform a concatenation operation. Let me make some space. So yes, it is able to perform a concatenation operation. This is a beauty of return. So what return does? So return will try to return a data as it is. You are not writing a data type, and Python will be able to understand a return data type by default. So if you are trying to return a list, yes, it will be able to understand maybe tuples, strings, set, dictionary, integer, boolean, float, everything it will be able to understand as a in its primitive format. Okay, so here that's a difference. But yes, if you're trying to perform the same thing with print statement, it is not going to work. So always make sure that print is going to give you a none type. With that, you can't perform addition, subtraction, deletion, or any kind of a primitive operations. But if you are going to write a return, obviously return will try to return a data as it is, and then you can perform any kind of operations that you want. I'll try to show you more example. So test3, let's suppose if I'm going to write, okay. So test3 is another function I'm going to create, and here let's suppose I'm going to give a return. Return is equals to this particular number. That's completely fine. So test3 I can try to call, and I will be able to get a data. While calling, this bracket is must. If I'm going to remove this part, it is just going to give me what? Function object. It is not going to give me the actual data. It is not going to execute the actual function. So you have to call bracket, and then this is a data which I'm able to receive. Now, if I have to check what is a data type of this one, what is the return type of this particular function, what is kind of a data function is giving me, I can simply write type, type, type. Inside that, I can try to pass this function test3, okay, test3, and it is returning me what? It is returning me integer. Simple. So whatever data that we had in an actual format, which I have written with respect to a return, it is returning me the exact same kind of a data without any kind of a modification. That is the reason. So we always try to write a return. We don't write a print, because print always try to return none type. Okay, fine. Now here, let me show you a couple of more examples. So def and test4 here. So let's suppose I'm writing a return. I can return 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe n number of a data. So let's suppose if I'm writing return 2, 3, 4, return a string, maybe return a list. So which is having this kind of a element, return boolean, it will be able to return everything. It will be able to return everything altogether. Let's suppose if I'm going to call test4, so test4, it will be able to return everything in a form of what? In a form of tuples. So if I'm going to check what is a data type of this one, obviously it is going to give me what? Tuples. Tuples, which is holding all the element. So whatever element that you are trying to return, it will be holding each and everything. So I can return not just one, not just two, any number of a data as a part of my outcome from a particular function. Okay. Now here, so let's suppose I'm going to write maybe a test5 over here. And here, what I will do is, so maybe I can try to return couple of things, 4, 5, let me write a return, and then 4, 5, 6, SUDH. Okay. So whenever I'm going to call test5, I know that it is going to return everything in a form of tuples. So I can try to hold all of these data into one single variable or whatever function we are calling. Let's suppose I'm calling test3. Okay. Test3. Now this is the data. Now I can try to hold this data in any variable. Let's suppose I'm going to hold the return of this function data into one of the variable. Yes, I can do it, A. And with A, whatever I want, I can do it. Whatever kind of operations. Let's suppose A into 10, I would like to perform. A into 10, I would like to perform. I can do it. That's completely fine. So from a particular function, I can try to extract a data and I can try to store it in any kind of a variable name as per our convenience. Now here, let's suppose we have test5. Okay. Test5 is trying to return multiple data, not just one. So fine, I'll try to call test5. So test5, and I can try to maybe hold a data into one of the variable A. Now A will be having what? 456 SUDH. 456 SUDH. So whatever I have written as a return. So yes, I'm able to get it inside my console in this particular variable. Now let's suppose I would like to hold all of these data, not just in one variable, but maybe into a multiple variable. Not an issue. I can do one-to-one mapping. So variable A, then B, then C, and then D. So I can write maybe in this way, variable A, B, C, D. And here it will try to return the data, and one by one, I had a 4 data set, right? It was returning 4 data set. Okay. So if I'm going to call A is having 4, which is the first one. B, if I'm going to call the second one, second data it is holding. C, if I'm going to call, so the third data it is holding. 6 it is holding. D, if I'm going to call, so it's holding basically the fourth data set, which is SUDH. So I can try to hold all of this data in one single variable. Plus I will be able to hold all this data into even a multiple variable. As per my convenience, as per my logic, which I'm going to build on top of it, I can try to hold a data set. There is no restriction at all. Function inside a Python is a very, very flexible things. Very, very flexible things. So I can even pass function inside function. I can call function in function. There are so many things which I'm going to teach, which I'm going to talk about throughout this function lecture. Okay. So fine. Now we know that yes, I can return the data. Now let's do one thing. Let's write a couple of logic inside a function. So here def test6. So test6 I'm going to create, and here let's suppose if I'm going to write some logic that I is equals to 0, and then j is equals to 2, and return I plus j. Fine, that's not an issue. So this is basically called as definition of the function. So I can try to write any number of line of code to do a processing, and then finally I can try to return the data set. Execute. Now if I'm going to call test6, yes, I will be able to get I plus j as a return. So I can write any kind of a logic over here. Now let me write a logic, a proper logic. So test7 I'm going to create. Let's suppose here I'm going to take a list. So list 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the list I'm going to create. Okay, this is the list I'm going to create. Now, if someone is asking me that try to run this inside a for loop, okay, try to run this entire list inside the for loop and then try to find out the summation. That's a requirement that I have. So whenever someone is going to call this test7, it should give me what? It should give me the sum of all the element. I can even call just a sum function and then I can do the task. That's not an issue, but I'll try to do it with respect to a for loop, let's suppose. Fine. So I have to do a summation of each and every number which is available inside a list, and finally print or finally return what? So return the summation, a sum of the entire number. Okay, fine. So for I in L, I can try to write same old code that we have already written. And let's suppose if I'm going to create a variable sum is equals to 0. So for I in L, one by one, try to extract the data. And then sum is equals to what? Sum is equals to sum plus I. Fine. And then finally, try to give me a return. Return of what? Return of sum. Execute. So I'm going to execute this one. Fine. So this is the logic which I'm writing inside a function. Like I said, I can write a logic in one line, maybe in 100 line. Depends upon me and my need. So here, if I'm going to call test7, okay, test7, if I'm going to call, it is trying to perform the addition operation. We have already performed this kind of addition operation so many times in my previous lecture. So if you have not watched and practiced my previous lecture, please do it. Otherwise, you will face a problem. Otherwise, it will give you a difficulties to understand, and then you are going to ask me that please try to explain me line by line each and every line of a code. But practically that is not possible because we will try to get into some sort of a complexity. And these things are not difficult to understand if you have gone through the lecture. Yes, if you have not gone through the previous lecture, then obviously that's a problem, my dear friend. So please take ease, try to execute everything in every lecture, whatever I have discussed, at least try to execute once and then move ahead, then move forward. And this is how I am creating this entire playlist, so that step by step manner, you all will be able to learn Python, and then one day you will become pro in Python so that you can solve a real time problem. Okay. So here it is trying to execute this logic, and then finally I'm able to get a return. Return is equal to sum. So yes, I'm just calling this test7. I can try to call this test7 100 times, but all those 100 times I don't have to write this code. Yes, I don't have to even write this particular code. And this function will never be executed. This function will never be executed while creating this function. So this function will be executed once you are going to call it. So whenever you are going to call this one, it will be executed, not at the time of creation or not at the time of definition of the function. Okay. So I hope this is making sense to all of us. Now here, so we are able to create a function, we are able to write a logic, we are able to return something out of this function. Now, I'm just trying to pass a data, a list over here in a hard-coded manner. So I'm trying to pass this particular list over here. But let's suppose I would like to generalize this function, the same function, I would like to make it generic so that you can pass any kind of a list. Yes, you can pass any kind of a list, and for every kind of a list, if inside a list there is an integer, right? So I'm going to pass any kind of a list with the integer, and it should be able to do the same thing. It should be able to find out the summation. Let's suppose I'm supposed to create such kind of a function. So take any kind of a list, just give me the outcome, so that again and again I don't have to go and write a list over here or do any kind of a modification inside the function. So how I will be able to do such kind of a things, let's try to understand. So I'll copy the same function, okay, and I'll name it as a test8. Let's suppose I'm going to name it as a test8 over here. Now I'll remove this list. I'll simply remove this particular list. I'll just try to pass list L as a variable. It could be anything. Maybe I can write I, J, my name, your name, doesn't matter at all. So this is called as argument. So the argument in between this bracket, so I'm trying to pass a data. So this is something called as argument. So I'm trying to pass an argument so that, right? So that I will just pass a data and it will work accordingly. The lecture, the nature of the logic that I have written over here, according to that, it is going to work. Let's try to understand. So here, this time I'm going to call test8 without passing anything, execute. It is giving me an error. It is telling me that test8 missing one required positional argument L. Means I have given a commitment to my function that I'm going to pass some data. but I'm not passing it. Okay, so let's pass a data, a required data, obviously, right? It's not like you can pass anything. It's not like you are going to pass just an integer and it is going to work. No, because it will fail over here. It's not like it will not be able to take that input. It will be able to take the input, but it will fail wherever you are writing a logic. If I'm going to pass an integer, it is going to crash over here because it will not be able to iterate over to it. So here, I'm going to pass any kind of a list. Okay, I'm going to pass any kind of a list and execute. See, for this particular list, it is going to work and it is going to give me the outcome. So how it is going to work? So whenever I'm going to call this function, yes, so it will try to pass this entire data as L. So my L will become this particular data. This data it is trying to pass as L over here, and then rest of the process is same. Go through the list, do a summation one by one, and give me the final outcome, return me the final outcome. So this is how you can pass the parameter inside the function. Again, while passing a parameter, there is no limit to it. I can try to pass 1, 200, whatever number of parameter that I want, I can try to pass it inside a function. So, okay, we are able to pass a parameter and we are able to perform some sort of a operations. Now, same thing, test 8, I'll show you the reusability. So test 8, and this time, if I'm going to pass some different list, it is going to work. So again and again, I'm not writing a code. I'm not writing this logic again and again, right? I have just written once, I'm calling the function, passing a data, my work is done. I was looking for a summation of the list. So maybe I can try to change this one. Sum list with integer. Maybe I can give a proper name so that others can understand. So sum list with integer, execute, and yes, it will be able to execute it. This is how function has been created, a basic at least. Okay, this is how function will be created. Okay, so we are able to understand this particular part, that how we can try to pass an argument. Now, let's suppose I'm going to create a function def test maybe 9. So I'll just try to keep name is equals to test 9. So here I'm going to pass maybe a comma b comma c. 3 variable I'm going to pass, and let's suppose I'm going to pass a string variable. So a is equal to string, b is equal to string, c is equals to a string. I'm going to pass. That's my assumption, that in a future I'm going to pass a, b and c. Return a plus b plus c. Fine. Return a plus b plus c. Now here, if I'm going to call test 9, if I'm going to pass a string sudh space little bit, and then kumar space little bit, and then I'm going to pass Python execute. So it is trying to do what? It is trying to take a is equal to sudh, b is equal to kumar, right? B is equal to kumar, and c is equals to Python. And it is trying to return a plus b plus c, which is nothing but a concatenation of all of these function. Fine. Concatenation of all of this function it is trying to return. Now in Python, again, whenever we try to pass this parameter, these arguments, whenever we try to pass, so we never, so it's not like we never. So by default, you are not supposed to give a data type. Yes, you are not supposed to give a data type. Simple, write any kind of a variable, process it. That's it and done. But let's suppose if I have created a function and if I'm asking you to use it, how you will be able to understand that what kind of a data I'm supposed to pass, right? What kind of a data I'm supposed to pass? There could be a possibility that you are going to call this function, right? And you are passing integer, and then you are trying to pass maybe a string, and then you have passed Boolean. Yes, then you have passed basically a true Boolean. Now this is going to crash. This is going to crash basically. So again, how anyone who is going to be a user of this function will be able to understand that what kind of a data you are supposed to pass. For example, if I'm going to call a print function, print is an inbuilt function, right? Just hover your mouse over here, guys. Just hover your mouse. So you will be able to understand these things. So here, print is taking not just one or two, print is taking a multiple data, right? Print is taking a multiple data, any values as an object. Now here you will be able to find out that separator string, end string, file this one or this one plus this one. So here, whenever you are going to create, a function, so you have a flexibility. Yes, you have a flexibility to give some sort of a notification. It's not mandatory inside a Python. In Python, it's not required. Maybe in other language like a Java, it is required. C++, it is required. But especially in Python, it is not required. But you have to make your user understand that what is a kind of a data which you are supposed to pass. So maybe you can try to give a hint how you will be able to do it. So let me create a function for you because it has crashed last time. So here, if I have to give a hint, let's suppose I'm going to create a test 10, right? I'm creating a variable a. I can write colon str. Okay. I'm going to create a variable b. I can try to say int. I can try to create a variable c over here, and then maybe I can try to say str. Fine, str, and then simply return a comma b comma c. I'm not doing anything, just return it. Now this is basically not mandatory. It's not mandatory, right? But here, with the help of this notation, with the help of this notification, what I'm trying to showcase, what I'm trying to prove, let's call and just try to understand. So test 10, let's suppose I'm a known user. I'm not aware about the type of the data which I'm supposed to pass, right? I'm not aware about this. Just hover your mouse. You will be able to find out that this test 10 is giving you hint that a you are supposed to pass as a string. It was not mandatory, guys. Even without passing it, it is going to work. But it is giving me what? It is giving me hint that okay, a should be string, b should be integer, and c should be string. So this is how you are supposed to give a notification to your user. Plus it is telling me that what it is going to return. So it is going to return by default a tuples combination of string, integer, and string. This is what it is trying to give it to me. Yes, this is something which it is trying to notify. Very simple. Okay, fine. So here, this is just a notification. This is a part of your docstring. Again, in our upcoming lecture, I'm going to talk about a docstring. Now here, so if someone has already given me a notification, I'll try to work accordingly. So first data I'm supposed to pass as a string. Second data I'm supposed to pass as an integer. Third data I'm supposed to pass as a string. Execute. Done. Yes. So in my previous example where I have written this, maybe I'm supposed to give a notification to the user that you are supposed to pass a as this data, b as this data, c as this data, and accordingly I have written a function. Okay, accordingly I have written a function. So please try to follow this particular convention and then only try to pass a data. It's not like you can pass any kind of a data and it is going to work. No. So this is the standard approach that you all are supposed to follow, and every standard function. So even if I'm going to call print, or maybe if I'm going to pass a length, everyone is going to give you the same thing. Yes, everyone is going to tell you that what it is going to take as a data input, what it is going to give you as a final return. Let's suppose if I'm going to call length function. So if you are going to hover your mouse, right, it is going to take any object size and then it is going to return what? Integer. It is returning me what? It is going to return me integer. And then even this line. So I'll talk about it, how you can write these kind of lines. Okay, which will be like shown to the user by default. So this is something that you all are supposed to mention and you all are supposed to maintain while creating a function. It's not like just write the variable and leave it. No, that's not a correct way of creating a function. That's not a standard approach, I would say, of creating a function at any point of a time. Okay, fine. Now, let's suppose I'm going to take the same function, test 10, and here you can try to give again this kind of operations, that what it is going to return, tuple. Let's suppose if I'm going to write. Now what will happen? It is telling me tuple. So this is again a notification which I'm giving to the user. So by giving an arrow and then writing something. So here, if I'm going to write sudhnshu, okay. Now what is the meaning of it? Let's try to understand what is the meaning of this one. So if you're going to hover your mouse over here with respect to this function, right? If you're going to hover your mouse with respect to this function, it is telling me that it is going to return any. Any means any kind of a data which is not defined particularly. If I'm going to write over here that it will try to return list list. Okay. Now execute. List. Execute. Fine. Now hover your mouse. You will be able to find out that it is giving me list. Although this is not going to return list. See guys. So I have written list over here. It simply means that I'm trying to notify you that it is going to return list. I know this is not going to return list. This is going to return tuples. I'm aware about it, right? But I'm just trying to show you that you can write anything that you want. It's under you. Like it just depends upon you that what kind of a return you would like to give to the user, or what kind of a notification you would like to give to the user, not return. So what kind of a notification that you would like to give to the user, that what this function is going to return. If I'm not going to write anything, let's suppose if I'm not writing anything, right, and then execute. Now if I'm going to hover on my mouse, it will try to always showcase the actual one. This is something which I have not written. This is something which my Python is able to generate automatically, that it is going to return this one by default. So it is going to give me outcome as this one by default with respect to a function. So hope guys you all are enjoying this lecture. Hope all of you are able to understand a basic of the function at least. Fine. So in my upcoming lecture, what I will do is I'll try to explain you. And so see guys, a basic I have already explained, right? Basic I have already explained. So in my upcoming lecture, I'll try to take a complex cases. I'll try to take the edge cases. I'll try to take a function inside a function. I'll try to take maybe a lambda function, which is called as anonymous function. So many different kind of examples inside a function. And then I'll try to teach you how actually we can try to create. But with this lecture, I believe you all are able to understand how to create a basic function inside a Python. Hope all of us is having this kind of a understanding. So with that, thank you so much everyone. See you again in my next lecture.